Hello again, algebra students. We're going to spend another day graphing parabolas. Today, your work is going to be the back side of the same worksheet we were working on yesterday. So this is the second day of it. Nothing new except that in the first half of the worksheet, we only had two numbers to work with, either the A and the B or the A and the C. On the back half of the worksheet, we're going to have an A, B, and a C, which just means that we have to be a little bit more careful when we're filling in our table of values. So if I have number 5 that we're going to do together, I want you to remember that we're going to start every problem with A, B, C. So the A is a 2, the B is a 4, and the C is a -3. Now remember, I said the C doesn't really come into play at all in our axis of symmetry, but it does matter when we're filling in our table of values. So when I use, let me rewrite this again, -b over 2a, we're going to have the opposite of 4 over 2 times 2. So -4 over 4 is going to be -1. That's what our x is equal to. That's going to be the first half of our vertex. And I can draw in my axis of symmetry. Now that I know the x part of my vertex, I have to find the y part. So the y is going to be 2, and then instead of the x, I'm going to put in a -1 squared plus 4 times -1 minus 3. So we're going to have -1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2. 4 times the -1 is -4, and then minus 3 or plus a -3. Now, if you just crunch these numbers, 2 plus a -4 is -2. -2 and -3 is going to be a -5. That means that my vertex will be at -1, -5. So you can graph that point. And now I make my table of values. Remember that vertex, that's going to be our middle point in our table. So I would want -1, -5 right here. Smaller numbers than -1 would be -2 and -3. Bigger is going to be 0 and 1. Notice, remember, we're trying to keep it symmetrical. We want to have the same number of numbers on each side, and we should find that symmetry as we're working through the numbers. So if x is -3, I'm going to say y equals 2 times -3 squared plus 4 times the -3 minus 3. -3 squared is 9, positive 9, times 2 is going to be 18. I'm just going to make this really long line here. This is going to be 18 plus 4 times the -3 is -12. So far, we've got 6 minus 3 is going to be 3. Now, if I put in a -2, right, I would suggest that you make sure you can do this on paper, in your head, whatever, but also know how to do this stuff in your calculator. And I've talked about how if you type this in carefully once, exactly the way this looks right now on the screen, then you could just go in and change the x number into the next one that you need. Just hit enter and it does the math for you. So, using our brains though, -2 squared is going to be 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times the -2 is -8. So right now I'm at 0. 0 minus 3 is going to be -3. When I put in a 0, my favorite, 2 times 0 squared plus 4 times 0 minus 3. So 0 squared is 0, times 2 is 0, 4 times 0 is 0. That's all 0. 0 minus 3 is -3, which it should be. Right? We should see that these match up. And again, you should know what I'm going to get for this last answer, but I'm going to show the work. So y is equal to 2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 3. 1 squared is 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 1 is 4. So right now I'm at 6 minus 3 gives me 3. And again, those match just like we thought they would. Now when I graph, so I have negative 3, positive 3, negative 2, negative 3. I already had negative 1, negative 5, 0, negative 3, and 1, 3. So this one's a skinnier parabola because of the 2 that's in front of the x squared. The vertex is the very bottom. It's the lowest point that that parabola is going to get to, which means it's the minimum. And the y-intercept, you can see it from the graph, but I'd also say that you can see it over here. We need to know when the x is 0, what's the y? Now we're going to jump down to number 8. So last problem on the worksheet. I want to make sure that you're okay with this. Notice they have negatives with everything on this problem. So, ABC. The A is a negative 2, the B is a negative 8, and the C is a negative 3. So when I find my x for the axis of symmetry, x equals the opposite of B, which is negative 8, over 2 times A, which is negative 2. So in the numerator, I'm going to have the opposite of negative 8 is going to be positive 8. And 2 times the negative 2 is a negative 4. When we divide that, we get negative 2. So my axis of symmetry is at x equals negative 2. The beginning of my vertex is negative 2. And then again, I can graph the axis of symmetry. To find the y part of the vertex, I would have negative 2 as my axis. So I'm going to have negative 2 times negative 2 squared minus 8 times negative 2 minus 3. Negative 2 squared is 4. And then the opposite of that, or you can even put a 1 right there. Negative 1 times 4 is going to be a negative 4. Negative 8 times a negative 2 is a positive 16. So far, negative 4 plus 16 would be 12. 12 minus 3 is going to be 9. I made a mistake. I have to go back and fix something, everybody. Sorry about this. The A was a negative 2, and I just put the negative, and I didn't put the 2 there. Sorry. Let me speed through this. There we go. So now negative 2 squared would be 4 times negative 2 is going to be negative 8. Now when I do this, I'll have negative 8 plus 16 is going to be 8 minus 3 is 5. That works. Negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is right there for my vertex. When I make my table, I'll have negative 2, negative 5 is my vertex. That'll be in the middle. So negative 3 and negative 4 are smaller. Negative 1 and 0 are bigger. And again, so many negatives here. This is a really good problem that if you're comfortable with your calculator, try this on your calculator. So I'll have negative 2 times negative 4 squared minus 8 times the negative 4 minus 3. So negative 4 squared is going to be 16 times negative 2 is going to be negative 32. Negative 8 times negative 4 is positive 32. So right now I'm at 0. 0 minus 3 is going to be negative 3. when I put in -3. Now, you should be able to take a look at what we've got here for the y values. Oh, and I even wrote this one wrong. I'm all full of mistakes today. This will be a +5. So we should get something in between there, between the -3 and the 5. If you get a number like 17, you know you did something wrong. So here's my substitution. So -3 squared is 9, times -2 is -18. -8 times -3 is +24. So just adding those two together first, that would give me 6 minus 3 will give me 3 for my answer. When I put in the -1, I'll have -2 times -1 squared plus -8 times -1 minus 3. -1 squared is 1 times the -2 is going to be -2. -8 times -1 is +8. So far I've got 6 right there, and then 6 minus 3 gives me 3. There's our matching. That's what we like. The last one, again, my favorite, because it's going to be the easiest one now. -2 times 0 squared. -8 times 0 and minus 3. So 0 squared is 0, times anything is 0. -8 times 0 is 0. Minus 3 is going to be -3. And again, we've got that matching. That's what we wanted. When I graph this, -4, -3. And then -3, +3. I already had the -2, 5, -1, 3, and then 0, -3. So this one, the vertex is a maximum. It's at the top of the graph. It's as tall as it's going to get. And the y-intercept, again, we know that right here, the y-intercept is -3, or you can find it in the graph. Now, your assignment today is to finish up the rest of the backside. So you have 2 more problems to do. You've got to do 6 and 7, the answer keys in Schoology. Make sure that you check that. If you need any help, let us know. And then don't forget to take the formative in Schoology.